Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Sales Scoop. This is a fortnightly live show for tech startup founders who want to improve how they sell. We tackle the hottest topics in startup sales and bring you the shiniest pearls of wisdom from experienced sellers. I'm Alastair, your host for today. I'm a computer scientist and ex-software engineer with 2 decades experience in B2B sales and marketing. And I'm delighted to say that I'm also joined by my friend, Kiran Gill. Good afternoon, Kiran.
Good afternoon, Alastair. Hello, everybody. My name's Kiran Gill. I am a co-founder of the Uplift Partnership. I have 25 years of B2B sales experience in management, operations, and I've worked in finance and in tech.
Thank you. And together with our CTO, Douglas, we are the Uplift Partnership. We accelerate sales for tech startups. We're different because we build and sell SaaS. So we know your world, and our impact working with over 50 startups over the last 5 years has been positive in a lot of different areas. We're proud of the impact we make. And today we've got a fascinating topic to dive into, our 5 sales foundations for 2025. I mean, a really, really exciting area, Kiran, something that we've been working on together, thinking about for several weeks now, planning and including a white paper, and planning resources for founders, planning their approach to tackling competition, dealing with the changes that's going on in the marketplace. Planning ahead for the future is really important. What would you add to that in terms of your what you've seen talking to our clients and other startups in the marketplace about what they should be doing, getting ready for the future and for next year?
Yeah, so one of the things, the advantage of working in a corporate environment for such a long time as I did is the understanding of when we used to prepare for the year ahead. And one thing that you tend not to see in startups is that kind of professionalism. So we started planning for our year ahead probably come summer. So come August, maybe even a little earlier than that, we're already thinking about the next 12 months ahead, the next calendar year ahead. So this is an ample time to start for the startups. I know they're in the middle of 2024 and still trying to close off all that business that they've got. But you need to start thinking about 2025 because that's what the big players do. They work ahead, and the more professional you make your sales operation, the more likely you're going to be successful going forward. Yeah,
I mean, it's the first few days of September. It feels like we're back to school, back to sales school, and obviously we're focused for all of our clients on trying to nail these next 4 huge months for sales, at the same time thinking about what's around the corner. So we're gonna dive in to these 5 sales foundations right away. We're going to start with our first, which is buyer-centric strategies. And in my mind, that buyer-centric strategy is about the requirement now to be ruthlessly buyer first in your thinking, in your approach to selling, your sales behaviors, and putting the buyer right at the heart of everything, right? What's your take on that, Kiran? How important is being buyer-centric?
I think it's paramount going into 2025. What we've noticed, especially with the introduction of AI into so many tools and everything else that's out there, and that comes from the buyer's point of view as well. So your buyers are changing their behavior. So the chances that your buyers, the personas that you built a few years ago are still valid is very unlikely. They're changing so rapidly. So potentially the people that you're targeting have changed the way they purchase. They changed the way they want to see information. So you need to go back to the drawing board and reassess everything that you did when you originally started your business. And even if you did it last year, you probably need to do it again because the buyer in 2025 is going to be even more complicated than the one that we've just left in 2024.
Yeah, and talking about those buying personas, at the end of the day, sales is about people, right? It's about building a connection with other people in order to foster that relationship, and you're going to need them to close the deal in the long run. So it's really about people focused. And I think one of the really big areas that we've talked about is revisiting the kind of definitions, right? Some of the really critical definitions, which seems sometimes a little bit boring. You're talking about writing stuff down, creating written documents, but it's really key, isn't it? And you know, what would be, you know, kind of key assets or documents that you'd want to revisit to make sure that you work properly buyer-centric?
I think you need to go into your sales playbook, and hopefully you've got one. And from that sales playbook, you need to look at what your value propositions are, who was your ideal customer profile, and who is your buying persona, and work through those. Now, this shouldn't take too long. The major thing, what you're looking to do here, is to see if the market has changed in any such way. So maybe going back and revisiting those people that you've sold to in the last 12 months, and just to see whether they do fit that persona. And is that the way, you know, was everything right in that? There might not be anything for you to do. But the thing with 2025 is especially if you're selling into certain industries, the people that you're talking to are going to be getting younger, and they purchase differently from people who might be a little bit older. So, and you just got to keep an eye on those things.
Yeah. And, you know, we advocate getting into the market, immersing in the market, asking questions of potential buyers. You know, you've then got to do the research and think about, have your ICP changed? You've got to do that ideation, give yourself time to think about that. I think something that's come out for us working with startups over the last few years is that often their ideal customer profile needs to be much more niche. If you're thinking about, am I niche enough? The answer is probably no, right? Going broad is very dangerous. It's a very big market to address. And actually, we're seeing greater success with startups who are able to niche right down on their really, really targeted ideal customer profiles, and then building out the buying personas from there. And those four we've run through, ideal customer profile, buyer persona, value proposition, and buying journey analysis, or mapping out the buyer's journey, absolutely critical for documents that need to be crafted if you're going to be a success. And we know that works. Research from HubSpot shows that companies who've got strong definitions of their ideal customer profile, they're now on 68%, they're winning accounts more than their competitors. So that definition does work, and it might feel a bit dull, but actually for us and for the startups we're working with, the juice is in the discussion and in the document creation, the back and forth, what's right, what's not, and that discussion often coughs up points that need to be covered, and you end up with a much stronger, tighter definition. And then those are then fed into our sales engine, aren't they, Kiran? And you know, we're using ICP and the value proposition in order to inform the rest of the sales engine.
It's critical, and that's where, you know, the rubber hits the road, and this is a critical foundation, and that's why I think it's number one on our list of the top 5, because being more buyer centric is going to make you more successful in 2025, and it's something that is critical for business going ahead.
Yeah, and that's why we put it at number 1, right? Sales strategy is the first of the 7 areas that we focus on when we run through our 360. So buyer-centric strategies, you've got to immerse, observe, and ask questions. Make time to think about the strategy. Craft those 4 key documents we talked about, and then take that thought back to the market and ask, you know, would buyers pay for this? Let's move on to number 2, hyper-personalized prospecting. And for us, this is the practice of tailoring outreach and communication to individual prospects by leveraging data and insights about their specific needs. Really important. What are the key, what's your view on hyper-personalized prospecting? How important is that in 2025, my friend? As
per the buyer-centric side of things, I think it's going to be super critical. Our customers now expect to be wowed along the journey, and they expect things to be personalized and tailored to them, no matter what they're buying. Because tell you the truth, if you're not doing it, your competitors are probably doing it, so you're going to be behind them. And when we're talking about hyper-personalization, we're not talking about just their name on the email and their company name in the email that you've crafted. That's very, very low level. We're talking about hyper-personalized. We're talking where you're actually talking to the customer in a language that they understand, and they feel that this piece of content has been created just for them. It takes a bit of effort, however, it's worth it, and that's why it's so important going forward.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the kind of classic, hyper-personalized communication is a message that I've sent to someone who is, either a lead or a prospect, and I've done some research on them, on their business. I've looked into the news, so quite time-consuming, but actually a really nicely tailored message that demonstrates that you understand their business is incredibly powerful. The other kinds of things that we're personalizing and that startups should be thinking about are, industry benchmark reports that are tailored to the recipient, product sheets, 2-page product sheets that are tailored just for them, case studies, testimonials, and potentially, video messages. It's all easy for us to talk about doing video messages after almost a year, just over a year's worth of these live shows, but actually producing video content as a personalized message for potential buyers is a really nice thing to do. And those different, have you got a favorite of those different types, Kiran, or what's your preferred mix of those things or others?
I think you've got to go back to step one. You've got to think about the customer. It's buyer-centric. Don't think about what's preferred for yourself. Think about what's preferred to your customer. Now, some people want that content in a written form. Some people want it in video. Some people want it in audio. Some people want it delivered by carrier pigeon. Whatever it is, you should be doing it in a way for your customer that it relates to the way they want to take the information. So you take that one piece of content that you've got and you turn it into 4 different delivery paths. And that alone will make the customer think, wow, you're delivering it to me in the way I want it to be delivered, instead of you making it generic and saying, everyone's going to get a blog post, whether you like it or not, that's the way you're going to eat this. Probably wouldn't go to that restaurant. So there we go.
I'm spot on. And we know how important this is because it's pretty much table stakes now, hyper-personalization. 87% of B2B buyers say, Forrest, they expect to be delighted, before and after purchase. I mean, the pressure is on. It's incredibly tough. Expectations are incredibly high. So for hyper-personalized prospecting, you've got to collect the high-quality data on your customers. You've got to research and ideate what you're going to make. Then you've got to go and create that great content. And there are tools out there that can be used to create hyper-personalized content at scale. You've then got to distribute it dynamically using your tools from your sales armory, and then make sure that you're enabling outcomes, that everything has got a very clear CTA. There's one action to do that people can follow through on. Let's move on to number 3, our third foundation for next year, stellar self-service. Obviously the world is so digital now, and so many people, so many buyers are demanding that they're able to make, the lion's share of the purchase online and through digital tools, that self-service is really important. What would be your advice, Kiran, for startups right at the beginning of their journey, the first kind of step they might make on their creating B2B self-service capability?
I think you just hit the nail on the head there. You said the word B2B, self-service. A few years ago, B2B and the word self-service or purchasing B2B over the online was not even on the radar for most companies. It was seen as too complex, too difficult to do. We need a salesperson. We have to go out there. And exactly where you've been saying there, everybody expects to do some part of the purchase decision themselves, and also be able to configure what they want to buy, have an understanding. Even if what you're selling is very, very expensive, there's still part of that journey that the customer wants to do themselves before they're ready to speak to a salesperson. So that means your self-service. Now, whether it's something you're selling something very, very complex and it's consultancy based, and there's never in a million years that anyone's going to be purchasing it straight from your website, that doesn't mean that can't be self-service involved in there on your website, and where the digital communication and the digital purchasing process that the client needs to go through to purchase that. So every B2B company going forward, or every startup B2B, needs to have that as a part of their model going forward. Because even though you're going to be purely self-service or purely consultancy-based selling, there's chances you're going to probably end up somewhere in the middle, and it depends on where you want to start. You know, you could be far onto the left, you could be on the far side on the right. However, you're probably aiming somewhere in the middle, and that's what you need to be ready and thinking about, especially in 2025, as the buyer gets more complex. And once you to understand that this is the way they want to purchase, and again, it goes back to those first two foundations, where once you understand your buyer, you'll understand where they fit on the self-service score as well.
Yeah, no, completely. And all those self-service tools and features, you know, whether they are live interactive videos, demos, ROI calculators, you know, free and premium access, all those self-service things, you know, need to be built, right? If you're going down the route of being a kind of pure SaaS B2B tech startup, it's a question of how mature are your current features and what is the roadmap to get you there. And talking about roadmaps, one of the things we like to cover is self-service versus sales teams. And we've got here on the left-hand side, you know, you're moving from 0 to 100% self-service. So obviously, if you're in an early stage, like you just talked about, Kiran, you're down in the bottom left-hand corner, you'll have, you know, a set person responsible for sales. Often that is the founder seller that we work with a lot. And you're always going to need a human being to oversee the self-service. You're always going to have, you know, at least one seller. The question is, at what stage do you grow and build your human sales teams, and how quickly do you develop self-service so you can move to being a kind of fully technology-led business? You know, if there were startups that are keen to build their self-service, Kiran, and we're more in that kind of more traditional box in the bottom right-hand corner, maybe they are a startup with a sales team of 3, and they've got a few pieces of self-service functionality. What would be your recommendations, my friend, of what they should be doing next to move from more traditional in towards more of a technology-led?
I think what you've got to look at is your primary is your business model and your kind of cost of sales, to give you an indication of which way you should be moving. So if you are selling something that is very high cost in sales, however, the markup in your product is very, very low, you're probably going to be pushing yourself towards technology-led, and you need to be doing that rapidly, because having paid staff selling things at a low price point is not going to be sustainable unless you're selling large quantities. So that's like if you're selling into enterprise businesses and they're buying 1,000, you know, users or 10,000 users, that's fine. You can have one salesperson, even when the price point is low. If you're only selling 1 or 2 units and the price point is low and you've got a salesperson involved, you need to get technology led, and you need to get there as quick as possible. And your sales team probably need to adapt as well into that sense, because maybe they're going to be more customer service oriented. Maybe they're going to be a little bit more marketing, a little bit more social media orientated. That doesn't mean they're not sales. It just means their skill set's slightly different from a traditional complex seller who is going to be a little bit more customer oriented. Typical salesperson that you and I would probably say, describe a salesperson to me and you'll describe that person. That's your complex salesperson. The new technology-led salesperson is going to be a little bit more customer orientated and probably very heavily involved in social media.
I mean, that's an absolutely great shout, mate. If you're in that more traditional box, that's where your salespeople are. They're going to need to be upskilled, you know, reskilled, given more skills to support that self-service thing, and the new more powerful salespeople we're expecting. So to wrap up, Foundation 3, stellar self-service, you've got to identify the right approach for you based on cost of sale and what you're selling and your approach. Then you've got to benchmark the maturity of your self-service digital tools and create a development roadmap. And then obviously, crucially, go and implement that roadmap, build those features one at a time in short sprints, and start to make it easier for buyers to get to you. Let's move on to number 4, dynamic deal closing. So, you know, these 5 foundations kind of work in order chronologically as well. You know, you've done your strategy, your buyer-centric strategy, and your hyper-personalized prospecting. You've provided stellar self-service. Opportunities have arrived now at your door, and you've picked them up. And we're talking about, you know, dynamic deal closing is about getting that deal across the line, which is no easy thing. It's been no easy thing this year, has it, my friend?
It hasn't been easy for the last few years. There's been so many startups who have gone to the garbage heap that haven't been able to survive through very, very difficult financial economic situation that we have out there. However, the kind of feeling that I've spoken to people and the kind of feeling that you get from the market at the moment is that things are going to improve. 2025 could be a big year for business to come bouncing back. And that means potentially the deals that you were not able to close in 23, 24, maybe even further in 22, maybe they're going to come back in line, because suddenly you can see that companies are going to start reinvesting. They're going to start growing again. Suddenly inflation's dropped, interest rates are going to come down. That means companies are going to be put into a position where they're going to have to grow. And this is a great situation for those startups who have survived this complicated period now to suddenly go back to those deals that they didn't have before and say, you know what, let's get back in there. Let's requalify these deals. Let's think about what the customer, why did they push back last time? Let's make sure that we don't go back and knock on the door and say, hey, we're back here. We've got the same offer. Go back, reinvent yourself, dust yourself off, put a new suit on, go back to the customer and say, look, we're still here and we still want to make you successful.
You talked about requalifying there. How important is it going to be next year that startups are able to qualify their deals properly?
Qualification is one of those bugbears that I've always had with a lot of customers, with, if not clients, customers, salespeople that I've worked with. People don't qualify enough. So qualifying in general, you just need to do it. And on top of that, you need to use technology to help you qualify your deals, because it's there, it's out there, and it will help you make sure that you don't miss a gap in the market or miss a gap in the actual deal itself. So it's super important. Yeah,
and right on cue, we've got something that might be able to help. One of our products is Revenue Coach, revenuecoach.ai. It is a personalized sales coach dedicated to qualification and helping you close. So that might be of use if your qualification is under par at the moment. The next thing I want to focus on in terms of dynamic deal closing is about value affirmation, right? We see time and time again that stalled deals happen because the value of the solution or service hasn't been properly articulated by sellers. And if you can affirm the value, demonstrate the value better, you've got a 30% likelihood of a higher quality deal, according to the Harvard Business Review. So qualification, really important, and demonstrating value. And then our last sub point on this is about being human, right? In closing the deal. What are your thoughts on that? Tell me what you think about that kind of human interaction, Kiran, and what people should be doing next year.
I think, again, it's going back to our foundational steps that we were talking about before, but, you know, going back to step 1, where we're talking about being buyer-centric, is that it's been a while since people have been selling effectively. It's been a few hard years for people out there in the market. And now you need to go back into the market, be confident, but also be authentic. You know, talk to the customer about problems that they've got. Think about their customer's customer. So the one thing about B2B technology is that your customer is also a business, but they're servicing probably maybe another business, but they might be even so. Who are their customers? How will your technology help serve them with their customers? And if you start thinking about their business, suddenly you're being human. You're not just thinking about your customer, you're thinking about their customers. So thus, it's more about making a holistic business together, where you're not doing it just for the profit, but you're doing it because it's the right thing for the client to do, and it's the right thing for them to do for their client.
Fantastic. So yeah, in terms of dynamic deal closing, got to qualify your deals properly. RevenueCoach.ai can help qualify them thoroughly. Go back and re-qualify ones that you haven't progressed. You've got to demonstrate the value, and then it's about being human and closing that deal in person. So many startups we work with are seeing that when the more they meet in person, the quicker those deals are closing. So, absolutely critical. Our fifth and final foundation is progressive sales processes, and this is about how you sit down and think about your sales operation, how often you try and improve it through collaboration and communication. Really, really important given the market's moving fast and things are changing. I know this is a particular area of interest for yours in continuous improvement, Kiran. Are there any bits that you'd pick out, or what's the how for somebody looking to deliver on this foundation next year?
First of all, you should have your sales process written down somewhere where you can see what's happening and you have all the stages. Multiple ways of doing this. Whether you've got Post-its, whether you've got a Miro board, whatever it is, you've got your sales process. The chances are, and again, your sales process in 2025 is going to be slightly different from the one that you've been using in 2024 and 2023. So it needs to be adapted. So as you're going down your buyer's journey and you're looking at your sales process, making sure that your buyer's journey and also your sales process are aligned, so both things are happening at the same time and that everything is going. There might be new stages that you've got to interject because maybe the client is self-qualifying on their website. So what does that mean? What does that mean in your sales process? Are there extra pieces, extra layers that you now have to add where somebody from your team has to send out relevant information or invite the client to I don't know, so whatever it is. But think about it in that stage that you've got to reinvent yourself every year. Unfortunately, that's the way it works in business. If you think the same sales process that you had last year or the year before, or the one you even started with 3 or 4 years ago, is still working, the chances are you need to go back, look at it, and make those changes to make sure that you're still going to be performing at top level.
Yeah, revisiting and looking at what you've done in the past, but also looking at what's out there in the future. New paradigms that are used to measure the maturity and quality of your sales function, contemporary funnel mixes that are going to deliver the fastest closing deals, and technology and tools that can help you hit the magic number, which for us is 618 sales actions per seller per month. So that it's important to keep abreast of what's out there and be progressive. So our 3 steps here are to analyze your end-to-end process, like you've just outlined, Kiran, perform that gap analysis on where you're short, and then boldly implement changes. Right, it's your business, your startup. You've got to be bold and make changes quickly that you think are going to work and back them, and give them time so that you can observe the effects of those changes, and then hopefully when they're successful, repeat. So those are our 5 foundations for 2025. I've covered those through in quite high level, but not to worry, because actually these 5 are part of a new white paper that we're publishing next week. We've got your contact details. We'll be sharing that with you. You have exclusive early access to the Empowered Founder Seller. We're right at the end of our time, perfectly. In terms of what's next, well, like I said, it's back to sales school now at September. Kiran and I are out and about at various events, summits, networking opportunities. So, if you want to make contact with us, reach out. It's Alastair or Kiran at theupliftpartnership.com, or reach us on LinkedIn, and come for a coffee.
Virtual or physical, either way.
Yeah.
I do like coffee.
Yes, we'll be at Sifted Summit in October, and a slew of events between now and then. And then the last thing really is just to leave you with our next event, which is 2 weeks today, Tuesday, the 17th of September. Would you like to introduce this one, Kiran?
Yeah, it's from seed to Series A, funding your startup. So next time we're going to be looking at what you can do at your startup to get that investment. What do you need to do? What do you need to do in 2025 to make sure that you get that injection of cash that you've always wanted?
Fantastic. I'm really looking forward to getting into that and working through some of the key elements that are needed in both product and technology, but sales and marketing, everything that's needed to wow investors in what feels like a slightly warmer climate next year than it will be this year. So come on, tune in for that if getting from seed to Series A is important to you. That's it. That's us for now. Thanks very much, my friend. Thanks for joining me.
Pleasure, Alastair, as always.
Absolute pleasure. Okay, everybody. Well, thanks. And that's it for now. So bye-bye.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.